The thoughts, opinions, and general overall shade thrown on High at 9 News are those of the individual speakers and not those of High at 9 News, its audience, or its advertisers. The statements made do not constitute medical, legal, or financial advice, and for advice tailored to your specific situation, please consult with a licensed professional. Welcome to the High at 9 News Hour, where you will hear from cannabis industry experts and professionals from around the country talk about important topics while shining light on global issues and discussing cannabis as it relates to politics, regulation and reform, data and technology, science, research and medicine, family and parenting, art, celebrities and entertainment, fitness, sports, mental health and wellness, and plant-based medicines and entheogenics. Together, we are building a stronger community, fighting the stigma and creating change. With your host, Jason Beck, joined by special industry expert correspondents from around the country, and daily antics brought to you by Cannabis. Coming to you live every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific Time and high noon on the East Coast. And thank you all for getting high at 9 with us. Yes. Good morning, everybody. That's right. It's Thursday, June 12th, and today is National, I love this, Peanut Butter Cookie Day.
Oh, I love peanut butter. Jason, I'll make a batch. You want some?
Yes.
Okay.
And put some with those Hershey's Kisses in the center too. Make some of those.
Oh, you know I'm going to.
Yes, those are my favorite. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I don't do Hershey's Kisses in the middle. I do like the mini Reese's cups.
No. You got to do like actual Hershey's Kiss in the middle.
More.
It's non-negotiable.
Aren't you demanding it's after my offer of goodwill this morning?
Non-negotiable. It's also National Jerky Day.
Oh, I like jerky too, Jason. Remember our friends that sent us at Family's Best?
I eat jerky all the time.
What was that brand? God, that hot one was so good.
Pee Wee Herman and jerky, right?
We were just talking about Pee Wee Herman before the show.
No, the ones I like the best actually come from Costco. There's these Kirkland steak strips that are just amazing.
I don't know, Jason. I think my favorites. I would agree with that until that company that watches the show sent us all that big box of jerky. Those were so good.
Interesting. Interesting. It's also National Loving Day.
Oh, I love you guys every day.
Mm-hmm. It's also National Red Rose Day.
You gonna get me some, bud?
Yeah, right.
Shit.
I look like a sucker. It's also National Career Nurse Assistance Day.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
Clean them bedpans, ladies.
That's right, ladies. Yes. Make sure you put those gloves on, Dale. Yes, and thank you all for joining us and getting high at 9 with us. It's also high noon on the East Coast, and please remember to like, share, and subscribe to us on all social media platforms. You can look up above and down below to see exactly where we live on the internet, and we are live every Monday through Friday on YouTube, Rumble, Twitch, X, Instagram, Facebook, Kick, as well as on our very own website at www.highat9news.com. So welcome everyone that's joining us from any one of those platforms. And we are kicking it off with Miss Jenny Beth Dills. She's the founder of Kind Cannabis and of Justice Served, a 501c3 that can help justice-impaired individuals get their life back on track. And she's hanging out with none other than Mr. Furry Theo himself.
I am my little co-anchor. This is our little young puppy, and he decides to wait till the news starts to get on bullshit in the mornings. So he's in air jail. So Theo's coming to you live from air jail. All right. So Jason, we've seen it. We've seen this numbers come to maturity, and now it's taking a big old shit. Because it's never been cheaper to get into California's cannabis industry, at least on paper. The state is now offering cannabis businesses licenses for as little as $1, thanks to the new equity fee waiver. Just kidding. What's happened is, and you guys can read this article from SFGate, we saw dispensaries selling for $5 million. There was one that was sold in Santa Ana for $8 million a few years ago. And now if you go and look at the 420 listing site, you find some that are saying, please, just assume my $35,000 a month lease, and you can have this business. California has essentially devalued our cannabis businesses, especially at the retail side, from what used to be a very, very, very valuable right to sell legal cannabis products to something that people are screaming with their hair on fire to get out of. So please just take my debt. Please just take my tax debt, my retail debt. I don't even know if I'm going to build this thing out. We've come full circle, and I am just, I'm really disappointed, you guys. It's really, really sad to see. And the city of LA is talking about having another licensing lottery, because what we need in the city of LA is 100 more dispensaries so they can all fight for scraps. And the tax bureaus that can try to fight to get as many licensing fees and as many tax fees out of them as they can while they lose their life savings. But that's just my frustration. Jason, what do you think, bud?
This is a terrible tale. Basically the valuations on these licenses have dropped so much. I mean, you would think that the sky was falling, and Chicken Little is just like, what is going on?
Well, Chicken Little's right this time. Chicken Little did, in fact, get hit in the head with a piece of sky, and it came on the backs of the CDTFA, the DCC, and whatever municipal regulatory body you are dealing with.
Mm-hmm. It's a sad state of affairs. That is for sure. Nonetheless, Jenny Beth, I agree with you. It's very sad. It's like, what's the point of even being in the legal market? You might as well just jump into the hemp market.
Literally.
Trap market that's winning.
Yep, exactly.
And our legislature doesn't have the political will to fix this because the people up in their ear are taking money out of the system. And I'm telling you, I'm screaming out here as loud as I can to the Democratic Party. They're a bunch of fucking idiots.
Yep.
They don't fix this. And my proposal is to take away local control, tell them go fuck themselves. You can't stop this anymore. And lower these excise taxes to like 3%, which is what distilled spirits are, and run this more like an alcohol business and just knock this nonsense off. But I don't think they're going to do it. We have to go back to the initiative to do this. And that's kind of in the works right now.
Yeah.
But this is dying. And I remember predicting a couple of years back that if you have cash in your pocket, sitting on the edge of a cliff looking down at the animals dying, wait till they're about to take their last breath and swoop in and grab everything for next to nothing. That's where we are right now in this industry. And it's hard to imagine how this is going to continue this way, as we're down to 8,500 licenses from almost 20,000. A lot of those, they're just barely hanging on.
Yeah.
And you can't go to bankruptcy. So whoever invested in these is going to try to be, picking out of the bone pile to try to recover their assets they put in or the money they loan. And it's horrible. Cash cow is dying right now, and they don't seem to want to stop milking it.
Right. And before you look at purchasing any of these assets, guys, if you think, hey, well, shit, I'll just take over one. Please make sure to cover your asses, because a lot of these are attached to really, really high liabilities. There are a lot of SEC claims on these guys. UCC claims on these guys, because the investors that initially invested when these businesses took $1 million, $2 million, $3 million to stand up never got their money back. So those debts are attached to that business. I know personally of 2 licenses that are being sold. They're asking $750 for the pair. One is in Hollywood and one is in like Venice or something. And they are asking $750 for a pair, which seems like a screaming fucking deal, right? Been operational for a while, inventories on the shelves. Yeah, until you look at the debt list on that, until you look at not only the investor debt, but you look at the debt to vendors. You look at the fact that they're on that beautiful, big, beautiful list. Jason, you like that terminology?
Big, beautiful. Yes, big and beautiful.
Retailers that you should not sell to because you will never get your monions back. So you guys, like California, please help us. We are drowning. Gruesome Newsom, I know that your hair gel is expensive. It's doing a good job up there, but we can't afford to pay for it anymore. So please, please, please throw cannabis operators a fucking lifeline.
Yeah.
And drop the link in the chat of whatever you're putting in your hair. Jason won't stop.
Got to get the legislator to act, Jenny Beth. And, the assembly voted 74-0 to not raise the tax. Oh, thank you. That's just such a great thing. But 15% at the state level, plus a state sales tax, plus a local regulatory compliance cost and local taxes, and then you start stacking them, and they tax money that they tax you on. So it's like, you guys are just trying to make this fail. And, it stopped being funny a long time ago. So many of my clients have just they had to walk away. Couldn't pay the bills, and they couldn't pay back their investors. Said, all right, I ain't got shit. Come after me. And there isn't enough put into the business to go in and typically whatever you do for improvements in there stays with the landlord. But if you have a bunch of equipment in, you might be able to grab that. But they don't buy that. They, go out and finance that too. So if you're not doing due diligence on these carcasses you're picking up, as Jenny Beth said, you're buying a barrel of problems.
Barrels of problems. It's like monkeys in a barrel. Remember that game, Dale?
That was a fun game.
What's that?
Monkeys in a barrel. You remember that game?
Oh yeah. I played that with the kids and grandkids. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You have any final thoughts on this, Nate, before we roll into our first commercial?
I think the directions that people have been going with this kind of stuff is just absolutely ridiculous, don't you?
I mean,
like, it's when you look at, and I can attest personally to the poor layout in terms of how this has gone. I have so much to say about it. The entire system needs to be brought down and rebuilt, and it can't happen quick enough.
Absolutely. And I'm more of a Hungry Hippos fan, and that's exactly what the California government and tax authorities are.
Oh, I see what you did there. That was cute, Jenny Beth. And on that, we're going to our first commercial, and we're going to be right back.
Oh, man, your knees still bothering you, man?
Yeah, my left one, But I'll tell you what, I've been using this new CBD cream, and it works like a miracle.
CBDs? I done heard about them CBDs. I was out there on them Twitters the other day, and I heard they get you high as a kite.
Well, not this stuff. This stuff is tested. Every batch, all the way through, pharmaceutical grade, and in a GMP certified facility. So you're not going to have to worry about flying high.
GMP certified? I might have to try some of this out. Where I'm even find this?
You go directly to aimhighhemp.com and they will ship it to your door right away. Tested. It's not a name, it's a promise.
And we are back, you guys.
Coming up next, the highest Republican in any room he walks into or out of, the old man who rubs CBDs on his knees on the Huntington Beach boardwalk.
You're so funny.
My best friend, the High at 9 head honcho, Jason Beck.
Oh, yes. Good morning, everybody. Happy Thursday, you guys. Man, let me tell you what is happening, man. Oh, man. This is crazy. Dale, this story's right up your alley, okay? Just so you know, because Chinese nationals were arrested in a $5 million Michigan pot bust. And guess what, Dale? They may avoid prison, of all things. 4 Chinese nationals are accused of operating an enormous illegal marijuana grow in Michigan. They may not face jail time, though, because state police seized 5,057 plants valued at nearly $5 million from a warehouse in Albaster Township near the shores of Lake Huron on May 29th. Lasco County Prosecutor James A. Baccarelia says. Less than a decade ago, the potential punishment was clear. Prison was likely, but the suspects are charged under a 1978 drug law with possession with intent to deliver greater than 200 plants, a 15-year felony, and maintaining a drug manufacturing facility, a misdemeanor punishable by up to 2 years in prison. The problem is that courts are still sorting out whether those punishments remain in place or if misdemeanor penalties written into Michigan's 2018 voter-passed adult-use marijuana law, known as the Michigan Regulation and Taxation of Marijuana Act, should prevail. Just so you know, there's an H in that marijuana. And the DA, he says he believes that he's right because the State Court of Appeals ruled that the new marijuana law and its misdemeanor punishment applied when prosecutors charged Shalin M. Kajabu of Tuscola County following the discovery of his illegal grow with more than 1,000 plants back in 2020. Conversely, the same court last year ruled the decades-old felony law applied to Julia Soto, a Niles woman inside whose home police found nearly 20 pounds of harvested marijuana and $10,000 in cash. They believed she was a dealer. Soto's case has been appealed and is pending before the state Supreme Court, and the outcome could determine if the Lasco County suspects face prison or a fine. In a quote, certainly there is a possibility it could fall into the Michigan Regulation and Taxation of Marijuana Act, the Lasco County prosecutor said. Until some judge tells me I'm wrong, I believe I'm right. Well, the bust in Barcella said that the suspects, 3 men, Wening Wu, Chang Xing Zhen, and Zhenhong Nai, and a woman, Mining Chen, all had legal status in the U.S., you guys. One was here under asylum petition, one had just gotten their green card, and the other 2 were legal residents, he said. Nye was taken into custody by U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement officials. ICE representative have not responded for a request for information about Nye's detention status, and the remaining suspects pleaded not guilty at an arraignment and are scheduled for preliminary exams on June 17th. Sometime after December 2023, the suspects leased a warehouse listed as a nearly 6,000 square foot building on almost 5 acres, according to prior real estate listings. And in a quote says, it was a completely empty space, Baccarella said. They completely renovated, created the grow rooms, added the air conditioning units, all the grow lights, fans, humidity controls, everything was added, he says. The prosecutor said the state police became suspicious of the operation pursuant to another investigation in another county, and charging documents signed by State Police Detective Sergeant Kaylee Berge claim a search warrant for the warehouse was obtained after investigators received electricity records showing an exorbitantly high amount of power being utilized. In addition, the odor of marijuana emanating from this location. After finding thousands of plants, detectives conducted surveillance and pulled over a black Ford pickup they believed was linked to the operation. Well, they were feeling, that's right, they were feeling inside were the suspects' luggage and a cell phone with GPS coordinates leading to New York City, the charging affidavit said. They were fleeing, Baccarella said. The 4 suspects lived together in a Oscada apartment about 25 miles north of the warehouse, according to charging documents, and a search of the residence revealed documents connecting the suspects to the Lasco County grow facility, as well as a known marijuana grow in Ionia, where a previous search warrant had been executed. In January 2025, the state police charging affidavit said Baccarella said the marijuana was probably going to New York, and in a press release stated the illegal grow operation appears to be part of a larger operation involving organized crime, which spans multiple states and China, he said. When he spoke, he said Baccarella declined to share further details, and what happens now may depend on the result of the pending state Supreme Court case involving Julia Soto. Michigan marijuana pioneers wrote the 2018 legalization law in a way that drastically reduces potential punishments for growing, possessing, and delivering marijuana, and mostly eliminating the possibility of prison time or jail. And anyone over 21 may possess up to 12 plants, 2.5 ounces of harvested marijuana while traveling, and 10 ounces of marijuana stored in their residence. The amounts increase if the person is a certified caregiver with registered patients, and someone who possesses with intent to deliver not more than twice the amount of marijuana allowed is subject to a misdemeanor and a fine. And the law also includes a penalty section for those who possess in excess of twice the allowable limits. The penalty is a misdemeanor and not be subject to imprisonment unless the violation was habitual, willful, and for a commercial purpose, or the violation involved violence. However, the Court of Appeals in its decision on the Soto case wrote that the penalty only addresses violations involving cultivation, possession, or delivery without pay, and it doesn't address possession with intent to deliver and large quantities of marijuana, they say. The court said because of the omission, the existing possession with intent to deliver felony laws and the punishment ranging up to 15 years in prison remain in place. And the distinction lies in whether prosecutors can prove possession with intent to deliver, because cultivation and possession, the courts have ruled, are not imprisonable offenses, they say. The court ruled that the cultivation of an unlimited amount of marijuana is a misdemeanor only, and in most circumstances, a non-jailable misdemeanor, said attorney Michael Kemitz, who represents Kajubu, the Tuscola County man who had a felony charges dismissed despite proof that he operated 1,000 plus plant grow. And Kemitz believes the Lasco County grow facility suspects have a similar chance to have their felony charges dismissed. In a quote, "I don't know what the prosecutors are saying, but if all they found was a bunch of plants growing or being cultivated, the Kijibu ruling says that's a misdemeanor only, you guys." Well, Michigan, man. Trap City is for real. Trap City, man, in this whole state. And, man, it sounds like these guys are going to get off pretty much scot-free, and I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say about this.
One of the problems with state initiatives is that they don't always account for all the consequences that come from changing these laws. And here in California, we changed everything to a misdemeanor soaking wet. So we don't have anything left that might possibly be a felony.
Yeah.
But, I don't know that I have to remind people here, it still violates federal law to manufacture marijuana, i.e. grow it. If you grow more than 100 plants, it's a 60-month minimum mandatory. 1,000 plants is 120 months minimum mandatory. And it sounds like these folks from China are not United States citizens. So they could, when they finish serving their federal sentence, they could be deported. So, this is a whole lot about, I think Michigan fucked up their initiative here. Maybe the courts will fix this. But it sounds like a perfect thing for Pam Bondi to send somebody in to ask a few questions about and maybe fix this problem.
That would be very interesting. That would be a very interesting turn of events right there, Dale, if that happened.
It certainly doesn't qualify for any of the Rohrabacher Farr and latest iterations amendments.
Yeah.
Because this is clearly not within the state legal structure. So you don't get any protection there. So,
yep. Very
this
true.
is a lesson for people writing initiatives that you might want to have some help doing this from people who've done it before, because you can leave big holes in this that are hard to figure out until afterwards. And the courts don't always do a good job of figuring this out.
Yeah. You could drive a Cadillac through some of these holes, Dale.
I'm wondering if does the timing have anything to do with this? I wonder, because a year ago, had you been caught with copious amounts, you maybe could have pushed for saying it's hemp in one form or another with one area's laws to another. It seems like those opportunities are going to be closing in soon, and I don't know how much that actually works in these parts, but if I was out and abroad and traveling these days and I got caught with any amount of cannabis, I'd be like, that's hemp,
Yep.
THCA, that's good everywhere, right?
Hey, I would say the same thing. I would totally agree with you, and I don't think that it's going to get closed in. But I do agree with you that I would be saying that, and if I was their defense attorney, I would be saying that it was all hemp too. It was an indoor hemp facility, all THCA all day.
Well, we know you're on bullshit, Jason Beck, and that sounds like a big old load of it. First of all, let's just go ahead and acknowledge that Michigan, this is in Michigan?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. Well, we know who runs Michigan's government. But anyhow, the fact that they spent so much money in throwing up such a sophisticated operation shows they were very, very, very comfortable, right? I'm not going to put a whole bunch of money into a basement that the cops might come kick down tomorrow. But I will go grab a warehouse and bring in a bunch of probably Chinese lights and everything and throw those up if I feel like I'm just safe there and nobody's going to do anything. And that's a problem that we have, right? People have gotten way too comfortable. And I hope, Dale, I hope these guys get spanked.
I hope so, too. It would be a great message that the federal government hasn't totally abdicated some responsibility here, especially in larger operations that are clearly interstate. They're not growing this from Michigan. There ain't a market in Michigan for all this. It's going someplace like New York where there's a market.
And international. They were saying it was going to China, too. Oh, boy.
China. What do you got to say, Stone?
This is what happens when legislation's half finished. You create loopholes big enough to drive a $5 million grow op through. And I wanted to give a shout out to the columnist Gus Burns for bringing back Harry Anslinger's marijuana with an H. Come on now, marijuana.
I don't know if it was necessarily Gus that did this. I have a feeling that he's just citing the legislation from Michigan. I'm pretty sure that the state of Michigan is the one that used the H in this, with how many H's are in this article. Stone.
Not Michigan. Damn.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah, I think it's Michigan that used, because they have those accents up there. You know what I'm saying, Stone, where they accentuate H's. Man. Yes.
You know what the shitty part about this is, Jason?
What?
This illicit Chinese national operated grow is worth more than a downtown LA licensed cannabis retail.
You are so right about that, Jenny Beth. And on that,
that's why they continue to exist.
Mm-hmm. And on that, we are going to roll right into attorney at law, Mr. Dale Schafer. Dale has been an attorney since the Reagan administration. He has represented physicians, hospitals, insurance companies, cops, corrections officers, and for the last 25 years, he has specialized in cannabis law. He served a 5-year federal prison sentence for helping medical marijuana patients and managed to save his law license. He's blunt. He doesn't smoke them because they're ratchet and nasty, and he's honest, and he's unconcerned with your opinion, public opinion, and everyone else's opinion for that matter. And he will show you how he can defy gravity by pissing up a rope. That's right, it's your favorite T.O. Loco, and you can now find him at his own law office at the law office of none other than Dale Schafer.
Hi, good morning, everybody. It's T.O. Loco again. I have another initiative story this morning. We've been bouncing around these quite a bit. This one comes out of Marijuana Moment yesterday from Ben Adlin, and the headline is Ohio Legislature can make only limited changes to marijuana law approved by voters, legal scholars argue. Now, there are 21 states in the United States that allow initiatives, ballot measures, if you will, and 8 of them require a supermajority to change a ballot initiative. California and Arizona are not like that. They typically, you cannot change them unless they're put into the initiative that they're amendable. California did that with our Prop 64, so it is amendable right now, but it doesn't get done very easily. Now, the initiative process, the first one was South Dakota in 1898, but in the Howard Taft presidency, just after Theodore Roosevelt, the progressive era brought in the initiatives. People were sick and tired of government. You know, it sounds like we are right now. They're just fucking idiots, can't get anything right. So the voters wanted to put in their constitutions, we can bring a ballot initiative and bring forth our own laws if the legislature won't get their head out of their ass long enough to allow us to, to pass laws. We've had these around for a minute, but in most cases, they can be amended. And in Ohio, 2 years ago, they passed the ballot initiative. This ballot initiative took away a lot of the, criminal, the felonies from this, misdemeanors of what they typically have. We also voted that 36% of the tax money was to go to local jurisdictions. Local jurisdictions are always looking for money. These state laws tend to give them mandates, which are typically unfunded, and they're pissed about that because they're struggling now to pay their own bills. They don't want to have to take any more responsibilities. And taxes in this are all over the place. Okay, now. What the governor proposed was we're not going to give the locals a nickel. That ingratiates himself to local governments. And they've got bills in the legislature right now from 20 to 25%, but they're trying to limit the number of years it can be. The initiative says 36% goes to the locals. So they're going to have to figure this out in the courts. And the way the Ohio initiative statute reads, if they amend the Constitution, that's got to go back to the voters. But if they pass laws, the legislature can amend in the spirit of the law. Okay. Now, these are the type of vague statements in these laws that give lawyers full employment. I mean, they love this kind of shit because what does this mean? So when can it be amended? How much can it be amended? This is going to go into the courts. And one of the statements we have from someone from the Marijuana Policy Project is that they don't trust the courts. They're just not going to figure this out. And I don't know exactly what this means. There was a conference where the Ohio State University Law School brought in a bunch of legal experts to try and talk about this. And one of them was not clear about how much can be changed. And this is where the problem starts. When you got a bunch of lawyers in a room arguing about whether you can or can't make changes to these things, the lawyers are there. They're just going to rack up fees. And so you should be very careful about these initiatives, because once they get on the books, they're hard to go change. And when you do try to change them, battles just begin. Okay? And I don't know how we're going to fix this, because government doesn't like the voters telling them what to do. That's sort of at the problem, the pissing match we're having in the country right now, because the governments have overspent, done things the voters really don't want. But to change it, you vote people into representative positions. We have a representative constitutional republic here. And so you don't get the direct change. So the voters for over a century, when they get pissed off, they get an initiative and say, yeah, fuck you guys. This is how the law is going to be. And if we pass it, we don't care. Except that, as we've seen from like Florida, we do all kinds of tricks to stop this from getting on the ballots. Once it's proved, then the battles begin of whether we can change it or not. I don't know we have an answer for this yet, but we've seen now in these initiatives that they leave holes, as Stone likes to say, big enough to drive a 60,000-foot grow facility through. We're going to see the same thing here, because tax issue is an internal pissing match. Whether these, how much these laws are going to change. They wanted to put a law in the book that you could have a minimum mandatory for smoking weed in the passenger seat of a car, or you can't share with people on your own private property. It's like, come on, man, who's going to abide by that? No, people are going to share weed. So we'll see how this proceeds through. The legislature can fix these in committees before they go out and try to pass a law that makes too big of changes and gets challenged in the court. I'm going to throw this back at you guys for comment, because this is just a mess all across the country right now, and I don't know that I have an answer for it.
This is definitely one big shit salad right there, Dale. That is for sure, without a doubt. You know what I mean?
Ugh.
With like soiled ranch.
Help that salad.
Yes, I think it's soiled ranch. It's all curdled ranch. Yeah.
Does that make it blue cheese? Mold in it?
Oh, stop.
Gross.
Oh, so bad.
Maybe Roquefort.
This isn't just about cannabis. It's about whether politicians respect the will of the people or look for legal loopholes to rewrite it after the fact. Ohio Supreme Court is going to definitely have to get involved here and let them remind them who writes the laws in democracy.
Yeah, I think you're totally right about, you hit the nail on the head with that one, Stone. Most definitely. And I think this is ultimately is a good thing, because these legislators in Ohio, they wanted to make just like a lot of drastic changes to the original voter initiative, and were really outside of the scope of what the voters passed in the initial initiative. And so I'm glad to see that there's some reining in of government, especially in Ohio, of that being such a breadbasket of America right there.
Well, this problem is going to continue until we get the Supreme Court to answer very specific questions about how much can these initiatives be changed, and what are the metrics for changing them. We don't have that clearly right now, and that's a problem, because the forces inside government, you can see them, they're fighting amongst themselves for money, and this industry just can't keep paying all this money. And the problem is that inside politics, they're fighting over the money that we can't pay them. So our chances of fixing this are pretty slim and none. Yeah.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Jenny, Nate, anything you want to throw in on this?
No. Theo had something, but I didn't understand it.
This has been educational, hearing people that are obviously a little bit more warmed up to the topic than I. And yeah, obviously it's, I go back to our roots of, without going too cosmic, how are you going to tax a plant, man? And just to see the levels of complication that have been put onto this desire to control this plant, and how absolutely, I mean, you picture this with any other vegetable that just, as quickly became commoditized, and everybody wins. And you look at this and you see how just detailed the demonization is. It's just kind of it's really interesting to listen to, like I said, others who are informed on the topic, and to just kind of, I guess, if anything, allow the irony to kind of unfold. It's sort of mind blowing when you take a look at it from, I'm not often on the legal side of things. Yeah, fascinating, but not in a good way.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. And on that, we are going to roll into our next commercial, and we are going to be right back.
Jason, look at what I just sent you. It's hilarious.
Yeah, stop whatever you're doing. Make sure you smash that like button. I know we'll appreciate it. You'll appreciate it, and YouTube will appreciate it. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed already. And all of the articles that we cover on today's show, you can read directly on our website at www.highat9news.com just shortly after the show. And make sure that you go into the description of this video and check out all the sponsors that help make this show possible every day. And make sure that you use the link in the description to order yourself a case of Liberal Tears sent directly to your door. 150 milligrams of caffeine in every can and 0 grams of sugar. And I promise you, no liberals were harmed in the making of this product.
I just ordered the summertime strawberry salad when added steak on top here at Anna's. Make sure you do the same thing too next time you're in downtown Long Beach. Come on down and check out Anna's joint on the 400 block of Pine Street. They have amazing selection of beers, foods, and when you come down here to Anna's, you can even challenge me to a game of shuffleboard if you want to lose. Did you get that? So, next time you're in downtown Long Beach on Pine Avenue, make sure you stop by Anna's Joint on the 400 block. Not only do they have Anna's Joint, this restaurant and bar, but they also have the amazing deli next door, and then next door to that, they have a very exotic flower shop. You may want to stop by and say hi.
Yes, and we are back. And Jenny Beth, you have a Stone Slade, Jenny Beth.
Oh boy. All right. Well, right on the ATX, the bluest part of the red state of Texas.
It's Austin. Stop it.
I'm talking about Stone, not the city. He's back from hitting the high road and smoking some THCA in the finest way. Stone Slade.
Oh no! Here we are. We're back.
Yes. Yeah.
Love it. Hey, if you're in the ATX, grab a copy of the latest Chronicle that just dropped today, and read an article about me. Anyway.
Well, actually, Stone, we're going to post that on our X feed. Nice. Also, that article that you texted me, we're going to post that on our X feed, so you'll be able to read it on our X feed directly later on today as well.
Very nice. All right, let's stay here in Texas. I've been around long enough to watch politicians ban, unban, reban, and then sort of ban things again. It's one of their favorite hobbies, but the latest episode playing out here in Texas might be one of the dumbest sequels yet. Right now, sitting on Governor Greg Abbott's desk is Senate Bill 3, the bill that would ban most hemp-based THC products in Texas. You know, the products that thousands of Texans have been using legally since 2019, when Texas happily jumped into the hemp game. Back then, politicians were patting themselves on the back for embracing free markets and farming opportunities. Apparently, that love affair has now run its course. Abbott says he is still thoughtfully considering the bill, which is political speak for I'm trying to figure out which way the political wind is blowing before I pick a side. Meanwhile, Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, who basically acts like THC gummies are the devil's candy, has made banning these products one of his top legislative priorities. He claims these products are circumventing the law and putting children's lives in danger. Now let's pause there for a moment, because that's always the go-to in the playbook, isn't it? The kids, every time, never mind that alcohol, fully legal and heavily advertised, kills about 90 people each month in Texas alone from alcohol-related crashes. or that we lose 1,000 Texans every year to alcohol-related deaths. But let's keep pretending that that Delta 8 gummy is somehow the bigger threat to public safety. The thing is, Texans aren't buying it, and I mean that literally and figuratively. Two separate independent polls, one commissioned by the Texas Hemp Business Council and the other by Based Medicines Associates, showed that Republican voters, the very people Abbott and Patrick claim to represent, aren't actually rallying behind this ban. In fact, 40% of Texan Republican voters say that they oppose banning hemp. Only 37 support it, and it gets even worse for Patrick when you look at the bigger picture. 68% of likely Texas voters overall support legal THC hemp products and proper regulations. That includes Republicans, independents, young voters, seniors, even households with military veterans. And here's the kicker from the poll. 72% of Republican primary voters believe military veterans should have access to THC products as an alternative to opioids. You know, the opioids that actually destroy lives and in communities. But apparently, it's easier to demonize the hemp plant and deal with actual drug problems. The Texas Hemp Business Council even showed up at the governor's mansion, which we reported before, with 5,000 handwritten letters and a petition signed by 118,000 Texans asking Abbott to veto the bill. That's not some fringe movement. That's a pretty loud group of your own voters trying to stop you from making a huge mistake. Now let's talk business, because that's really what this is about. Texas has more than 8,600 licensed hemp retail locations. Over 53,000 Texans have jobs connected to this industry. If Abbott signs SB 3, many of those jobs will disappear overnight. And just like we've seen in every prohibition attempt throughout history, from alcohol to cannabis to who knows what's next, the black market will simply step in and fill the gap. In fact, 55% of Republican primary voters said exactly that. A ban will just boost illegal sales. Another 53% said it will create more opportunities for drug cartels. And I guess the cartels are probably watching this vote more closely than ever right now. But here we are again, watching Texas lawmakers try to shove a round peg into a square hole. Cannabis, whether hemp-derived or marijuana, cannabis just doesn't fit neatly into the old sin category like alcohol or tobacco. Those products poison you. Cannabis, on the other hand, works directly with your body's endocannabinoid system. It helps people manage anxiety, insomnia, chronic pain, inflammation, and PTSD. You can't overdose on it, and if you take too much, you might sleep really well or order too much DoorDash. But you're not dying in a ditch on I-35. Even Governor Abbott himself admitted that people are using these products instead of alcohol, opioids, and other pharmaceuticals. But instead of leaning into that reality, his administration is thoughtfully considering whether to create an even bigger mess by banning them entirely. You've got veterans begging for access, small business owners fighting to keep their doors open, voters, not activists, but actual Republican primary voters, saying they want regulation, not prohibition, and yet somehow the loudest voice in the room are still the ones pretending that this is about the children. At some point, you have to wonder who they're really protecting, because it sure doesn't seem like it's the people of Texas. Governor Abbott, the ball is in your court. Let's hope that your thoughtful consideration leads you back to reality. I'm Stone Slade with the High at 9 News.
Wow. I mean, I think overall, I think this is good news, Stone. I mean, the fact that he is coming out saying that he's undecided on the issue only shows what great work all the activists have been doing to make their case for it, because Dan Patrick, all he has to do is send a text and just call him, be like, hey, put some pressure on him, you know what I'm saying, Dan
Patrick's been doing a parade of a media parade, getting out there doing as many press conferences as he can. He's not making himself look good.
Yeah,
in my opinion,
I agree,
and I agree with you. It's definitely a positive thing from Governor Abbott that he's still considering it. I really believe in my heart that he's gonna veto this bill.
I saw a number of I saw some polling data that came out of Texas that said that Republicans are more interested in primary in the Republican primary to see who would replace these individuals as they are in re-electing these individuals, and they did include Governor Abbott if he signs the bill. They said if he doesn't sign the bill, then they're not gonna worry about trying to primary him. But Lieutenant Dan Patrick is definitely there's a lot of people that are in the Republican Party that are looking to primary him.
Well, because Lieutenant Dan, your argument ain't got no legs. Like, this is getting absolutely ridiculous.
Send him packing back to Maryland. He's a grifter.
Are we gonna subscribe to season 2026 of Texas, Stone? Are you invested in the sequel, or the games are throwing us?
This guy has the best chance, I think, in his like 15 or 16 years that he's been in causing trouble in Texas. This is definitely the best chance for him to go, because he's not looking. He's making a fool of himself in public, blatantly lying, and the people see it. So.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, we had a Dan here in California, as you remember.
Yeah, Dan Lundgren. Yep.
And in 1996, he tried to do a power play and got his ass kicked, and they passed Prop 215. So the voters can and will stand up at some point and give you your walking papers. It just seems to me it's a fundamental Republican principle of promoting business and giving people personal freedom. This is a victimless crime, smoking weed. Okay? So it isn't like you're robbing banks, or, I mean, even on the highways, they can't point to any reasonably high statistics of people in high causing accidents when they're high on weed. Alcohol is the problem. And to try to get around that, that's the elephant in the room, is that alcohol kills so goddamn many people personally and on the highways. How do you keep bringing that up when it's factually and provably false? Hope he gets spanked for it.
And I'll say, too, for his donors, for his political his political whatever that word is, you know what I'm saying? His donors, you look back and there's two large alcohol groups that were in that like almost $500,000 range. And then there's a guy's name, and I don't remember it, and I don't remember his company, but he owns this alcohol distribution company, and he was like a $7 million a donor. So he's heavily backed by big alcohol, and this is a lot what this is about, and that's why he made it his number one goal in this legislative session.
I think
it's interesting that
corrupt, because it is corrupt. You can buy politicians.
Yep.
They do it through PACs and things like that and donations. But clearly, if I give somebody $7 million, God damn it, I better get something back in return.
You're right about that.
That's how the political world works.
Yep.
And we have a problem in California where people getting money don't want to give it up. That's corruption. And it's corruption in Texas because it violates every fundamental Republican principle I was raised on. Free markets, let people do what they want to do. If you're not hurting anybody, what the fuck is the government doing in the middle of your business?
Exactly.
It seems like there could be a much more productive conversation happening too. Like, I wouldn't ever push for overregulation, but there are aspects of safety regulation that absolutely should be looked at. You are able to review these kind of things, and rather than go for this all or nothing kind of Boolean approach to the subject, the idea of being able to reel in some of the potentially dangerous aspects or things that can spoil seems like so much more productive of an area of conversation, rather than just trying to demonize it and spread lies, which there are reasons to reel this in my opinion, in some ways. Like so many things, you don't slam the door from one end to the next. You ease into things, you understand them. In this case, it's just a classic demonization of cannabis is what I've seen. It's interesting too, because there is so much room. There's so much more room for it to grow and be developed in a place like Texas than it is for it to go backwards. You know what I mean? Going backwards and putting it back in the box, like, that's not sustainable. What's that going to lead?
Yeah.
And this is coming from a different part of the country, but what's your end game there? Because it's not going to go away. You're just, as what's being my first guess is that you would alienate yourself from your base. And based on some of the statistics that Stone shared, that's exactly what's happening.
I just want to say too, I looked it up, and it's Silver Eagle Beverages. So if there's a big organization to not like in Texas, Silver Eagle Beverages, one of the largest Anheuser-Busch distributors in the state.
Yeah, I mean, that's just, I mean, I'm quoting an old marijuana logs kind of concept here, but what's the point of alcohol going after cannabis? Like, the notion that it's one versus the other, like I've never said no thank you to alcohol because I was smoking weed. That's never ever happened to me, or really most people I've ever met. So I'm not sure where the concern is here. It seems to me like a massive cross marketing opportunity, cross business opportunity that's yet to be tapped into. I've been to some of the very few places on earth where you can get both alcohol and cannabis served to you in the same place, and no, all hell didn't break loose.
Yeah, I mean, there's a number of places. I mean, that I frequented for decades that have allowed for alcohol consumption and cannabis consumption. Although it wasn't legal, they've allowed it to happen. And I've never witnessed any like bad altercations in the cannabis area where they've allowed that to happen. You know what I mean? Not in my days.
Somewhere over the rainbow, right, Jason?
I wasn't going to name the place, but yes, that would be correct, Jenny Beth. That would be correct. The rainbow, world famous rainbow on Sunset Boulevard.
Well, every place where cannabis laws have been loosened so people can use it, the sky hasn't fallen. None of the predictions that they threw out there have happened. Kids are actually using it less because it's not the forbidden fruit. No one's ever died from it. The highways aren't blood red with people driving stone. None of that stuff happened, but they continue to throw it out, and they will until they lose their ass, and then it's like, oh, they're going to agree with us. We were right all along. This has a history. It's not just today, but it's just ridiculous, and we can continue to beat this dead horse, but these guys control legislators, and that's the problem, because we have a constitutional republic here that has certain ways to make laws, and it can be captured. And to get rid of these son of a bitches, that's why the initiative process started in the first place, because it's like, if you guys won't do it, the voters will. We'll put it on the ballot and pass it ourselves, and at least you get something on the books, because this is not sustainable. Black market is just rubbing its hands and waiting until it can go make beverages and CBD and THCA and all that shit. There's just no restrictions. And I don't know why they can't figure this out. Why do you pass a law you can't enforce? I've asked legislators this a lot. Why do you pass a law you can't enforce, especially when it violates your fundamental principles of your party? Answer me that.
Fair enough. And Nate, OG Grandma 420 really liked one of your comments. Says, great comment, Nate. All more reason to use the committee process with a sustainable agenda.
Well said. I feel like anything that's going to be agreeable, in your world bipartisan, in my world pretty much sane and centrist, but anything that goes through that has very much of a organic creeping through kind of feel to it, especially such a big decision, which we can still agree that it is. And anything that has that kind of rapid jerking, like I said earlier, door slamming kind of feel to it, is oftentimes it's just it doesn't feel right, if that makes sense. It just, people generally reject that kind of thing. I don't think this sounds like any different. So yeah, we're on the same page.
I'm with it. And on that, we're going to roll into our final commercial, and we're going to be right back. Great story, Stone.
Oh man, your knees still bothering you, man?
Yeah, I left one, But I'll tell you what, I've been using this new CBD cream, and it works like a miracle.
CBDs? I done heard about them CBDs. I was out there on them Twitters the other day, and I heard they get you high as a kite.
Well, not this stuff. This stuff is tested. Every batch, all the way through, pharmaceutical grade, and in a GMP certified facility. So you're not going to have to worry about flying high.
GMP certified? I might have to try some of this out. Where I'm even find this?
You go directly to aimhighhemp.com and they will ship it to your door right away. Tested It's not a name, it's a promise.
Get over it, Stone. Get over it. Get over it. Get over it, Stone. Get over it. Jenny Beth, we're going to roll right into Nate.
He's a cannabis industry veteran with over 25 years of hands-on experience spanning cultivation, extraction, and testing. A co-founder of Bell Costa Labs and a respected voice in cannabis science, Nate's career has been driven by passion, integrity, and deep commitment to the plant. And when he's not working in the lab, he's moonlighting as the cannonball guy at Casa Bonita. Nate Winokur.
Appreciate you guys. Appreciate you. Yeah, I'm here to talk about a little fun something in terms of, I think it actually maybe qualifies as the good news surrounding cannabis. This is like the lighter side of cannabis for today, right? Cannabis extracts combat common fungal infections. Compounds derived from cannabis have been found to effectively combat fungal infections, such as athlete's foot. 2 cannabis-derived compounds have shown remarkable effectiveness against fungal pathogens in laboratory tests, according to new McCary University research. In a study published in the Journal of Neglected Tropical Diseases, researchers discovered that bioactives cannabidiol and cannabidivarin killed harmful Cryptococcus neoformans, a World Health Organization listed priority fungal pathogen. The compounds also killed dermatophytes that cause common skin infections and much faster than existing treatments. Findings open a door to possible new treatments for these fungal infections. Fungal infections affect more than 1 billion people around the world each year, according to data for the Centers from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Whether it's athlete's foot, a yeast infection, or potentially deadly lung infection, pneumatocytis, pneumonia, fungal pathogens beg pardon, are a serious health threat with relatively few effective treatments. McCary University's Dr. Hugh Din, a postdoctoral research fellow in the School of Natural Science, and Associate Professor Amy Kane resolved to tackle the growing threat of fungal infections with the help from Professor Mark Connor and Dr. Marina Junquera Santiago from the McCary School of Medicine, collaborators with the universities of Sydney and New South Wales. Having worked in the field of antimicrobial resistance, Dr. Din knew that developing an entirely new drug and getting it to market could take decades. It made more sense to work with pharmacological compounds already approved for use in humans for other conditions because their safety and mechanism of action are already well known. And there are challenges when it comes down to testing and figuring it out. But essentially, we've been able to determine cannabis and cannabinoids can be used not only in certain antibacterial functions, antifungal functions are now being published as well. And there are, seemingly pretty big implications that come along with this, including preventable deaths. So the article does go on. It's a bit more of a read than that, but we go on to say that there's a lot of active compounds that can be extracted from the cannabis plant and give it up to CBD and CBDV for being able to roll out new uses and being published around those. So I'd like to open it up to the floor because, again, it's kind of the lighter side of cannabis. And I feel so much of this is unfortunately enshrouded with different levels of control trying to be imparted on our favorite plant. And that sucks because it's often too easy to get wrapped up in the business and political world of it. Here's the medical beneficial side of it. What do you guys think?
Wow. Go for
so
it, Jenny.
glad I don't have that problem, but
I think there's ample history of hemp being used in salves for antibacterial purposes over time. And since the DEA was invented in the early 1970s, they've gone out of their way to prevent realistic research into the medical benefits. All they wanted to do was find bad things with it. And so it's about, Meshulam in Israel was the first one to go, we're just going to look into this. Australia seems like they're doing the same thing. Let's take away this forbidden fruit and this is going to ruin society bullshit about this. And let's realistically look at what we can do. And since it's non-toxic, These should be more in the area of nutraceuticals or things you don't have to go get a prescription for, because they really are not going to harm you. And fungus is a problem. I mean, if you've been married before, you know that women get yeast infections and it gets kind of ugly. And the stuff they give you is not always that helpful. And, my daughter, every time she takes an antibiotic, she gets a yeast infection. And if you could take this together to try and fix this, women would love you. What a great thing.
Cannabis has numerous antimicrobial properties. So one of the interesting things is that we can start to look into, depending on, let's say, if it's a topical type of treatment, something like being able to go cannabis derived might actually be a future application for our plant. And if you're going cannabis derived on one end, and if, the likelihood of being able to see imbalance, given our body's seemingly awesome ability to work with a plant in multiple forms, you might not be seeing so many side effects. And that's a pretty magical thing. There's a lot I would say, obviously I'm pretty biased here, but there's so many properties of cannabis that even in our industry, even as we've seen it developed, how often do you see CBD talked about or sold? I mean, is it 1% of the industry just about everywhere at best? Are people still just rocking their proverbial hard-on for THC? How long will that go on? Because there's so much more to this plant, and I can't wait to see it truly get marketed in the ways that I feel like, so ultimately would benefit people.
I agree. 110%, man. They've barely scratched the surface on the potential of this plant. And, one of the things that I can't remember which lawmaker in Texas said, but he was like, there is no cure-all. I was like, this is pretty fucking close, man. It helps a whole lot of things. So
it's silly at this point. It's damn near it borders on magic. You know what I mean? Like it like the number of things that it's good for, it borders on fantasy. And the fact that we have this at our fingertips is mind-blowing.
Well, if they can break through the mechanism of action, Nate, and that's where there's been a lot of restrictions to try to figure out. We have the endocannabinoid system, and it works closely with the immune system. How does this actually work so that you can then develop the medicines more specifically directed at problems? Rather than slathering this all over your body, and we pull out the active compounds and make them up into ointments and, using things generally regarded as safe on human beings, and then actually effectuate some cures. Because the pharmaceutical industry wants you to take a pill and the consequences of that side effects, another pill, another pill, another pill. And they don't want to incorporate this in because it doesn't make the pharmaceutical companies any money. Well,
I agree. Please.
Nutraceutical, basically. It's an agricultural product. It's not toxic. And I can't say that enough. It's not toxic. It will not kill you. It won't even harm you unless you're stupid enough to eat a whole bunch of it and try to drive a car or something like that. So from the standpoint of naturopathic medicine, we need this to be incorporated more into the allopath training and into their actual daily procedures in the office. Because I know when Molly was doing this, we were open to everything. Okay. And her family had practiced medicine. They'd used this back in the late 1800s, early 1900s without any reservations. We need to get back to that where you say, go ahead and use it and tell me how it works. They do that with aspirin and fucking Tylenol. They'll kill you. If you call the doctor, goes, oh, get some CBD cream, wrap it, wipe it on your fungus infected toenails and see if it works and let me know.
Yeah.
That's how medicine worked until the pharmaceuticals got a hold of it. And now it's got to be phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and you fight for all that stuff. I'm in favor of that for dangerous chemicals. This is just not in that category. It needs to be allowed to be used and then report to the government how it works and let people know, because people aren't stupid. If you rub this on your skin and your yeast infection goes away, it's like, dude, it worked. You're ready for next time you get one of those.
I've taught a couple of classes on routes of administration, similar to what you were talking about. And I can definitely say that, although I agree, and from a pharmaceutical standpoint, there's a lot of ground that needs to be covered, especially with with cannabis as a whole, its lack of water solubility, definitely limits how it can be taken and what those routes of administration can be. But a lot of them are accessible to those at home. And I think that's kind of a big deal. And it's, I'm not to suggest, that, not to invalidate your point, Dale, but just to simply build on the idea that where things can definitely stretch in the Western med, scientific aspect and truly be created and formed and developed in the right ways as a true pharmaceutical. In a lot of other ways, and just to the original point of how effective it can be and how many formats, a lot of that people have access to their very home. I mean, even as a word is tried and played out as THCA, THCA is an amazing thing. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but you could actually eat a little bit of hash as a way of curing a stomach ache. And it's the THCA in the hash that's actually the active in that case. I could go on, and you'll hear all of the stuff at another point. But just to put it out there, there's so much that you can do to utilize this plant and with what you can do even at home. And like I said, it's damn near magical.
Well, because it's a a non-polar molecule, you can't put it in the bloodstream directly. And avoiding the hepatic portal system is a great way to get it in your system, because when you swallow it, you know what the liver does. It converts it to hydroxy 11, very sedating. But there are ways to get around that. But the external application, so I think we're talking about here, because fungus is typically an external skin problem. Okay, and maybe a yeast infection, things like that. But these are to be applied externally. Internal treatment, I think we have to do a lot more research on that. If you can apply these creams on you, these ointments on you, and deal with these problems, and the pharmaceutical companies have a lock on this stuff right now. The prescription antifungals, are where doctors go, and this could be a place to go for physicians that's relatively safe, actually more than relatively safe. It's absolutely safe.
Does this work for all fungal variants, Nate, is what we're saying, or is it only to specific fungal variants?
This was a study on specific ones and in topical applications. So that isn't to suggest that it's just limited to that, but this part has been now proven. So we're looking at specific, common, deadly that they had run as at least one of the controls, one of the species that they had studied in this experiment.
Fascinating stuff. Jenny, you have any final thoughts before we move on?
Any morning I can talk about yeast infections with Dale, just start the day off right. But Jason, what do you got? You have a happy for us?
I'm not sure if it's happy, but it's interesting. You know what I mean? Okay. Not sure if it's happy. I've been trying to find a happy story to end the show on, but I had one, and then Stone kind of, commandeered it because he had his original story, so we weren't going to report on the same thing twice and whatnot. And he doesn't like to go last. He doesn't like to go last or whatnot. So you know what I mean? It's okay.
Stop it! Why are you letting out my secrets, Jason? Just read your story.
We love you, Stone. Oh, man, you guys. A Florida house backs a plan to remove medical marijuana patients and caregivers with drug or cannabis convictions, you guys. That's right. The Florida House has agreed to a Senate-backed language that would require the state to remove patients and caregivers from the medical marijuana registry if they've been convicted of drug-related crimes, including some tied to the illegal marijuana market. As part of the latest healthcare budget negotiations, the House is now siding with the Senate in supporting a provision that directs the Department of Health to revoke medical marijuana registrations for any patient or caregiver who pleads guilty or no contest or is found guilty of violating Florida's Controlled Substances Act, Chapter 893. The language comes from SB 2517, which mandates the state revoke registration following a conviction or plea related to substance covered under Chapter 893. That includes cases where someone is caught delivering 20 grams or less of marijuana without compensation or purchasing more than 10 grams of a controlled substance. While low THC cannabis and hemp are excluded, the measure applies to synthetic cannabinoids Delta 6, Delta 8, Delta 9, and Delta 10 THC. And although the change hasn't been officially finalized, it's increasingly likely to become law. If adopted, the Department of Health would be forced to expel patients and caregivers from the state's medical marijuana program for certain criminal convictions, and even if their offenses were marijuana related and occurred prior to or alongside their participation in the legal system. This could have significant consequences for those who turned to Florida's regulated market medical marijuana system to leave the black market behind. And while the state may vote on legalizing adult use marijuana in 2026, those with criminal records tied to non-medical cannabis activity could face new barriers under the current medical framework. The proposal also notes that the defendant's claim of ignorance about a substance's illegality is not a valid legal defense, and simply possessing a banned substance can serve as evidence that the person knew it was illegal. Well, man, what do you look at? Sounds like all of a sudden Florida's trying to do with their medical registry what San Diego just recently did with their voter registry. And I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say about this.
This is disgusting.
I think so too.
I've been in and around the practice of medicine for decades.
Mm-hmm.
And the doctor prescribes you medicine. No one asks you, hey, were you ever convicted of having coke? Or, nobody fucking asked you.
Yeah.
They treated you. Okay. This is outrageous. And I hope somebody puts a stop to this kind of stupid shit.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, there's if you got in trouble before you're disqualified from medical cannabis now. That's what they're saying.
That's what they're saying. Or if you get caught, you know what I'm saying, doing things that you're not supposed to be doing outside of the scope, then they're gonna eliminate you from the program.
How do they make sense of that though? That makes fucking zero sense.
That's the problem, Stone.
Yeah.
Most of this don't make no sense.
Yeah.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that's Florida, and here I am in Texas. So we're almost like brothers down here in Florida and Texas.
Mm-hmm. That is true. Jenny, what are you gonna say, Jenny?
I mean, I get the thought pattern. I disagree with their decision. I mean, I guess they're saying, hey, if you were, growing and trapping weed illegally, got caught for it, we're not going to give you a caregiver card so you can grow and trap weed legally, quasi-legally under some sort of protection. But I don't know. I Florida man shit.
Florida man.
This is not a happy story we're ending on.
I told you. I tried to warn you guys ahead of time. You know what I mean? No one wanted to listen.
Stone's fault.
It is Stone's fault.
Blame Stone. I blame Stone.
I blame Stone.
I do too. Yeah.
Oh, it's
I
also
think
it violates the Hippocratic Oath. I mean, at its basic foundation is do no harm to your patients. I mean, I can sort of rationalize the caregiver thing.
Yeah, I can understand that part. Yeah, I'm with you, Dale.
I've had to take care of people that the cops brought in that were, had done some really bad things, and you just had to take care of them. It's like, yeah, you're a rapist or whatever, but you got a broken leg, and we'll fix it, and the cops take you away. This one, it sticks in my craw as how mean-spirited you son of a bitch is going to be.
Mm-hmm. What do you guys say, Nate? Any final words before we run?
Just that I'm sensitive to the juxtaposition of wanting to help people but wanting to punish people. It doesn't seem, I wonder, how effective this is if the goal is to control cannabis. That it doesn't seem very effective. If the goal is to demonize cannabis, and we've seen in a lot of areas go against the will of the people, then that's not, it just doesn't seem to fit. I guess, there's a push and pull of a political nature that I don't necessarily I'm not necessarily sensitive to. But when I look at it from a practical standpoint, the way that the world is moving, it doesn't make a heap of sense. If anything, similar to other, charged subjects, listening to you guys be able to kind of define it has been huge on my understanding of how these things have been going. So it's interesting, man. It's not a great time, I guess, in terms of happy stories, but we'll work on that.
I tried to find a happy story to end on, but whatever. Didn't work out today, Jenny Beth. It just didn't work out today. But I do agree.
You know what, Jason?
What's that?
Tomorrow you can try again.
That's right. There's always tomorrow. But Dale, I do agree with you. The caregiver thing, I think this makes sense. But from the patient perspective, I don't think that this makes a lot of sense. I understand there is a lot of abuse within the caregiver system. Always has been. You know what I'm saying? That's just an easy kind of scapegoat for people to skate around and scoot around and whatnot. So I understand what they're trying to do with it. I would feel better with it if they just eliminated it or utilized it only for caregivers and not necessarily for bona fide patients from that their doctors have already signed off on. I think that's kind of where it kind of rubs me the wrong way on what they're trying to do overall. But nonetheless, we will continue to follow this along as we find developments in relation with this. And thank you all for joining us and getting high at 9 with us every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific and high noon on the East Coast. Big shout out to our audience and supporters for tuning in daily and listening to the insanity that is the developing cannabis industry. Huge thank you to Aim High Hemp Distribution, Tested, and Catalyst for helping us keep the lights on over here. And thank you to our correspondents for being absolutely amazing. Thank you to Cannabis Sativa L for giving us a reason to do this every day. And thank you to CloudMedia.Partners Anthony out there in the metaverse. And thank you all for tuning in and getting high at 9 with us. We are America's #1 daily cannabis news show. And we are off.